Hi. We're backstage here at the historic Court Theatre with Pat Shortt, one of the stars of the most nominated
Tony-nominated play.
Most Tony-nominated play. It's the revival of Martin McDonagh's The Cripple of Inishmaan. It's a revival, considered a revival, right?
That's kind of an interesting question because we are in the revival category with the Tonys and everything else, but actually it's the first time it's ever been on Broadway, so technically speaking...
It was a little bit of a to-do to figure out, right?
Yeah, it is a bit, but it was done by Druid Theatre Company here before, I think once. I think it's the second time it's ever been given to third time it's ever been given to a professional theatre company to do. The National did it originally in London with Druid Theatre Company together. And then Druid went on to take it to Ireland and they took it over here to America as well afterwards.
I was going to say, the show had an amazing run last year in London, on the West End.
In Old Car Theatre in the West End,
And remarkably, the whole cast made the transition. That doesn't usually happen, I think. There's usually someone who can't make it, right?
Yeah, it's usually someone that can't make it, and I think there's also stipulations there with unions in America that they don't allow sometimes, this is what I've been told, sometimes full companies to tour, but I think it's because it's a limited run that we're an exception to that. And luckily, everybody in the cast, it just fell right. There was talk of getting it over to New York after we'd finished the run in London, but I think they couldn't get a theatre, and then when they did get a theatre, everyone had taken other jobs and all things. So they left, and then it was kind of a bit of a surprise. Beginning of this year, we all got a phone call individually, and of course everybody started ringing each other. Did you get a call? Did you get a call? This kind of stuff.
Making sure,
But I know Michael Grandage, the director, really wanted everyone on board that had been in the production originally, and I think Dan did as well. And
Daniel Radcliffe, the star.
The star.
Mentioned that.
So as a result, it was great. We all got out here together, so it was nice because we had done the play in London, and we were all used to each other, and it was great, and there was no new ingredients fitting in.
It would have been hard for one new person to come in.
Yeah, it would have been because we also had only a week's rehearsal. I think we've broken all the records on Broadway as the quickest turnaround of a show from when we landed, a week's rehearsal, and then we had 2 previews, and then we opened.
Just 2 previews?
I think it was 2 previews, 2 or 3. So I think we teched on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we opened up
with previews.
With previews, and then the following Sunday we opened, which you were at the opening.
That's amazing. So what's the camaraderie like among the cast? Are you guys like family now?
Yeah, in a funny kind of way it is. I've worked on casts before, and some people click, some people don't, or whatever. But funny enough, everyone has connected on this. It's a particularly good cast. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe, everybody knows Daniel Radcliffe, but you've Sarah Green. Sarah was nominated for an Olivia Award from last run, and she's nominated for a Tony on this run as well. Gary Lilburn, Gary I'd worked with before on Garage and other projects. Gary's a very well known actor in the UK. June Watson
she's phenomenal.
She's phenomenal. She's an amazing actress, but she's a very, very big star in the UK as well. People mightn't be aware of her over on this side of the Atlantic, even though she's worked out here quite a bit. And a big stage. And then Ingrid Craigie is one of the aunties. There's 2 aunties, Ingrid Craigie and Gillian Hanna. Ingrid is probably one of the finest Irish actresses of our generation, and she's just amazing. Again, people may not be too familiar with her here, even though she's done productions in America. So she's and then you've Connor's a very good young star coming up. Has done a lot of quite good movies and stuff like that. And Pádraig Delaney, of course, people would know him from The Winner Checks the Barley, which was in Cannes as well, won the Palme d'Or out there. So yeah, it's a very...
And everyone's Irish except for Daniel?
Except Daniel and June Watson.
Okay.
June Watson is Scottish.
Okay.
And Daniel is London, as everyone knows, but his dad is from Downpatrick or somewhere around there, Northern Ireland. So he's got an Irish connection.
Did you ever think you'd be on Broadway?
No. You see, my own background is I do a lot of comedy and stand-up comedy, and I jump in and out of theatre very, very rarely. I mean, because the nature of my business is you tend to tour a lot. So when productions come up, I would already have prior commitments. So I tended to do quite a bit of film because that can be last minute. You can move things around a bit.
It's only a few weeks usually.
Exactly.
Time, right?
Yeah, and you can often jump in for a few days even on some cases. But yeah, the max is a few weeks. So that tends to happen. And you can move things around, but theatres, you're booked in a lot longer in advance than that. So yeah, I've done only a handful of theatre shows, so this is probably my my third play I've ever done, and to be on the West End and Broadway with it is quite remarkable.
Yeah, right. Good way to break in there.
Yeah.
So tell us about your character, Johnny Patine Mike. He's a character in every sense of the word. He's a piece of work, right? And he really Daniel's the marquee name above the title there, but your character really kind of moves the play along.
Yeah, my character. To give you a bit of background on the play, for example, the play is based around an island called Inishmaan, and this small community which is us on the island. And there's a film happening in is it Lettermore? It's happening called on another one of the islands.
These are the Aran Islands, the west coast.
Yes, the west coast of Ireland, off Clare and Galway, and there's Robert O'Flaherty made a film back in '34 called The Man of Iron, which was a huge movie at the time. Big box office hit in America, all over the States, and it was an iconic Irish film, even though it's look kind of dated and whatever now. But that's going to happen over years. So this play is based around the news coming to the island that the film is happening, and of course, young Billy, who's a cripple, wants to get off the island and go and see the play, as does Bartley, who's played by Conor McNeil, and Slippy Helen, his sister, which is played by Sarah Green. So they managed to get off the island and go. But my character is Johnny Paddy Mike, who's like the local reporter, news, gossip man, whatever you want to call it, of the time, and he brings the news constantly. So I suppose the one thing Michael Grandage told me about when he offered me the part is that I need to have the energy. I need to come bursting in with the energy of the news and everything, and telling you, because he drives the storyline along by bringing news to the aunties and that. There is no lead in the play as such. I mean, I always remember the first time I saw it in the Royal Court. I remember looking at the two aunties and thinking, if there's anyone a lead, it's the two of them, because it's centered around their home almost as well. So yeah, my character drives the story, brings the news to the aunties, and then tries to extort eggs or other.
And he's very funny too.
He's a very funny guy. He is. Yeah, he's what we call in Ireland a Shleveen. A Shleveen is a kind of a sneaky, dodgy kind of. You couldn't trust him at all, You
never know what he's up to.
And you never know if his news is right or not, but he still seems to be the only guy with news, and of course news is currency, and so everyone pays attention to him when he comes on the scene, because he brings something new to the storyline, and he drives it with that energy constantly through the show. So whenever I come onto the stage, I bound on in a big fashion, in a big way. So it's a great character to play. It really, really is a fantastic character to be playing.
Do you get nervous when you go on stage?
No, I don't. I don't get nervous. The problem when you're doing a show for any length is you get complacent, and that's the biggest fear of all. Because then, and it's not even you can often your concentration can wander because you're so familiar with the lines and the scene, and that's the worst thing that can happen to you. So it's not nervousness, but I could be in the middle of a scene and I could wander off thinking about where am I going to go for dinner. And then suddenly realise, there's a line coming. I went, did I say that already? Where am I? What? And then you start doubting yourself a little bit. And when you do that, that's the scariest moment on stage.
Do you? Has anything happened like the cell phone? I think about the cell phones ringing and all those kind of things. Is there anything like that so far?
Yeah, there was one. There was one mad incident. There's a scene with me and the mother on stage. And it comes to like nearly the very last line, which is a big punchline. I bet money on cancer or something, and the lights go out, bang, and it rounds off the scene. And just as I was getting to it, I'm just about to deliver the line, and an old guy got up in about the fifth row and shouted up, "Is that you, Jack?" I was like, "What?" It made no sense. It was completely surreal. It turns out the guy had kind of half fallen asleep and he was a bit deaf and he couldn't hear it, and then he thought he recognised me as a friend of his. So he got up and he shouted at me on the stage. And of course he came so far left the field that in the audience everyone was like, "What?" And the lights went down and the scene had finished and I was like, "Is it over? What?" And the revolver was going around. I was looking there at you going, "What?" So, apparently he'd gotten up earlier in the show. I found out afterwards from the director who was in that night that the same man had got up earlier on to take his coat off and forgot to sit down. So he was clearly on a different level than everybody else. So he gets up, takes his coat off in the scene in Act 1 and just remains standing until someone came over and asked him to please sit down again. So that was very, very strange.
That's a good story you have.
Yeah, and then the Revolve. Another night I was climbing. I come off the when the Revolve starts. Revolve didn't start, and I'm stuck halfway up the ladder and on the wall. I wondered, is it going to go or not? And then when it did start, I wondered if I get up in that wall, I'm going to be stuck up there now. So I was kind of hanging, and had to scramble up at the very last minute to get up in the wall to start the next scene. So that was another odd one, because then you don't trust the Revolve for another couple of nights.
Of the show. Yeah.
You know, a couple of nights coming, you're going, is it going to go? Is it going to? Of course it did. It's never let us down since. But.
And that's the beauty of live theater.
Well, it is, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, American audiences don't know you as well as I think your homeland people do.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you do on stage.
Well, in Ireland.
Yeah, in Ireland.
Okay, I started out many years ago with a double act called Dumbelievables. We came over here quite a lot.
Say it again?
Dumbelievables. It's
okay.
Unbelievable. The Unbelievables, but in Ireland the way we say it's it's D apostrophe Unbelievables. So we started as a double act comedy show 86, 87 when I came out of college. I was in art college, and we started working together, and after a couple of years we built up quite a big fan base in Ireland, and we were probably one of the biggest draws in Ireland.
And it's a comedy variety
comedy show that we wrote ourselves, various different shows. We've done about 4 or 5 shows together, which we wrote the material, and it was like we were described when we went to Edinburgh and various other places as comedy de l'art style of comedy, which is we come in from every different angle, and because we both play music, I'm a saxophonist and John's a guitar player, we introduced music into the act as well. So I remember in Wisconsin we were known as vaudevillian players. That's one of the reviews called as that. So it's kind of like we used to always write a show based around an event, such as a wedding. We had one of the biggest shows we did was called One Hell of a Do, and it was about an Irish wedding, and we played all the characters at the wedding, the aunts, uncles, and we used to bring some members of the audience up and marry them off and have a big party. It was not like a standard theatre style show. It was more of an event, and we became very, very popular in Ireland with stuff. And then when we broke up in 2000,
and what was the partner's name?
John Kenny.
Okay.
And in 2000 we stopped working together after working together for 16 years. Then I started out my own in 2002, about a year later or so, and then I wrote a TV show called Killiscully and produced it, and became the biggest TV show in Ireland. I think it's still.
Were you in it too?
Yeah, I played 5 characters in it.
Oh wow!
Because I kind of based it around a village, like which I based it on the live shows, and I only wanted to play 1 or 2 characters, but it just, as it happened, on one occasion an actor didn't turn up, and I had to. I said, "Look, give me a moustache and a hat, and I'll do it." And then the TV company RT liked another character I played, just purely for a tracking shot that we needed something to get us into Bridget, and was looking with the director. So there's something that happens in Ireland called power walking, which women do.
They do that here too.
Did you hear
malls,
too? Yeah. Funny enough, when I showed this scene to an English producer, and they didn't get it, and they were staying in Ireland for a few days, and then they came back to me 2 days later and said, "I completely get it now because I see them everywhere in Ireland." But it's not as big in the UK.
It was big in the last decade, I think, where they did like in the malls, the women would all walk.
Oh yes, the mall. Well, I've seen that. Yeah, in Ireland it's on every road, country road. Generally, what happens is women would drop the kids to school, and then they'd meet up a bunch of them and they go for a power walk. It's a fitness thing. It's great. But I had this character, and I power walked, and she became a very big character. I only did it for a transition shot, but they loved it so much that you have to write her into next season. So we ran for 5 seasons. It was a big show, and I also I was dabbling in film as well, on and off, and I'd done quite a few films. Yeah. But then I did a film called Garage in 2007, I think it was out, and that was a huge transition for me because it was a very different role. It wasn't comedy anymore, and it was a director called Lenny Abramson. People know him. He's
he made a movie called Frank that's coming out.
He did a movie called Frank, which is coming out, yes. And he had done a film prior to that, and I can't. It'll come to me in a minute. Oh, Adam and Paul, which is a fantastic movie. That was his first film. And then his second film was Garage, which I starred in that as the lead. But it was a very dark kind of film, and it was completely different than what people had known me for, which was comedy characters. Real strong characters and Irish characters, and with that film, that film went on to do very well all over the world. I mean, in the art house circle, cinema circles, we won on most festivals in Europe with it. I won Best Actor in Britain and in Ireland and Monte Carlo and various other places around the world. So then it won Best Film in Siberia and London Film Festival and film festivals like Turin as well, which was another good one. We won in Cannes and we were selected for Director's Fortnight. And then we did win an award down there as well, which Tona asked me to pronounce it, but I think it was Best Art House Film of the Year. It would have been the kind of what it was about. So since then, I've done a lot more film as well. And
I know that Martin McDonagh is the playwright who has written a series of Irish films, Irish plays and films, but he made a splash with his Leanan, am I saying that right? Leanan trilogy? Leanan trilogy.
Yes.
Which premiered when he was kind of in his late 20s and he made a big splash. And then he and his brother also makes films, right? And you starred in a couple of his films.
I've done 2 of his films, Guard, I did a very small part in Guard, which is good fun. And then it's a trilogy actually. Guard was the first one. Calvary is the second one, which has just been...
It was at Sundance this year, I think.
Sundance this year, yeah. And I think it's just been released in Ireland and in the UK. And that's... I actually haven't seen it. There was a storm the day I was supposed to go and see it in the village where I live. It's actually one of the first mini tornadoes ever to hit Ireland and destroyed the whole village. And I couldn't get out of my house. There was 4 big trees down the front driveway, so I missed the premiere of it. I haven't seen it yet. But there's a great reaction to it. And I believe Brendan Gleeson is the lead in both those films. And I believe there's a third one now, which is, interestingly enough, based around a paraplegic or cripple, if you want to use the word, it is in London, and I don't know what the storyline is about, but Calvary, I did.
Oh, you think you're going to be in that one too, or?
I hope so. John, if you're out there, you know where I am. I know. John does tend to use a lot of the same actors again. I mean, a lot of the cast from Guard were again in Calvary a few more, so you never know.
And also in Martin McDonagh's film in Bruges too, Brendan Gleeson, right?
Yeah. Martin has used Brendan as well in films in the past. Six Shooter as well, which was his Oscar-winning short film. Yeah,
that was a great film.
It was fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So they're an interesting. 2 boys, 2 brothers.
Are they really competitive?
Yeah, they say that they are themselves. Yeah, I mean, I'd say they would be. I mean, I've
because their work is kind of in the same vein. It's the dark comedies.
Yeah, it is. And funny enough, John was writing before Martin, and John had done quite a few films and was out there working. And then Martin shot up meteorically to fame with the Leanan trilogy, and then Six Shooter with the Oscars. So it was quite funny. Martin would often say he'd be giving these scripts to John to have a look because he was the older brother and the writer. And now it turns out that people know Martin a lot more than John, But then John is a fantastic writer. John
Fortunes can change, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, Calvary is a fantastic film. Guard was huge for John Michael. So there's no question of it. He's there now at this stage.
Okay. All right, well, so the play, The Cripple of Inishmaan, is on Broadway, limited engagement through July?
It's finishing on the 20th of July,
Okay.
And we opened on the 20th of April, so it's a 14-week run.
That's a good long run.
Yeah.
But not super long.
No, not super long. No, it's a good long run. Yeah, I've met Chris O'Dowd a few times. And he's up of Mice and Men, and they're doing a much bigger run.
Are they?
Yeah, they've been here for a bit before us, and they previewed for a month or something like that. And they're running, so I think they're...
Oh, they're slackers.
Yeah.
They need a preview. You don't need that. So great, so audience can catch you, and if they're not sure where the theater is, they can just look for the hordes of young girls outside waiting for Daniel Radcliffe to appear.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're already here now, a few hours before showtime.
It's incredible. It's incredible. In London was the same. We used to have hordes of fans, and he's very, very good to give him his due. I mean, I don't know where he gets the energy from, but after doing maybe 2 shows before, he goes out and he meets the fans afterwards and signs autographs, and he'll spend time with them. He does it every night.
Wow.
I've never seen him let anyone down yet, so it's quite impressive, I have to say.
So it's worth for them to come down here.
Yeah, absolutely. They might see me as well.
Yeah, maybe now I want your autograph too. All right, well, good luck with the Tonys. I hope everything goes well for the show, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you.